They never taught this in school, not because it isn't important, but because it is. Long before psychology had textbooks, degrees, or laboratories, human beings were already mastering the art of influence, quietly, slowly, carefully. And the most effective form of power was never force. It was the ability to move another person's mind without them realizing it had been touched. Manipulation is not loud. It does not announce itself. It does not come with threats or raised voices. True manipulation feels natural, reasonable, even comforting. It feels like choice. And that is why so many intelligent, kind, self-aware people still fall into it again and again, without ever seeing the pattern. In ancient Africa, human behavior was studied the way hunters studied animal tracks, not with judgment, but with patience. Elders observed who spoke first, who stayed silent, who mirrored emotions, who waited. Power was understood as perception control, not domination. To influence a person, you didn't break them. You guided what they saw, what they feared, and what they hoped for. Today, manipulation wears modern clothing. It hides behind concern, advice, leadership, even love. It doesn't look dangerous because it isn't meant to. The most successful manipulators don't overpower you. They align themselves with your values, your empathy, your sense of duty. By the time you feel something is wrong, the decision has already been made in your mind. This is why Africa's history must be reframed. Not as a story of silence or victimhood, but as a long tradition of psychological awareness that was pushed aside, renamed and repackaged elsewhere. What was once taught through stories, proverbs, and observation was replaced with systems that benefit from unawareness. When people don't understand how influence works, they become easier to guide. By the end of this video, you won't be suspicious of everyone, but you will be alert. You'll begin to notice pauses that feel calculated, kindness that arrives with invisible strings, and pressure that disguises itself as urgency. Once you see the game, it doesn't scare you, it slows you down, and clarity has always been the enemy of control. Stay with me, because the most dangerous manipulation is the one that convinces you it never happened. Most people think manipulation is obvious. They imagine shouting, threats, pressure, or someone trying too hard to control a situation. That misunderstanding is not accidental. True manipulation does not demand. It arranges. It quietly adjusts the environment around you until the choice it wants you to make feels like the only reasonable one left. Manipulation is not about forcing action. It is about shaping perception. When your view of reality is guided, your behavior follows naturally. You don't feel pushed, you feel convinced. This is why manipulation is so effective on intelligent people. It speaks to logic, emotion, and identity at the same time, without triggering resistance. In many African traditions, this was understood clearly. Influence was seen as a subtle art, not a violent one. Elders knew that the person who controls the story controls the outcome. They taught that the most dangerous trap is the one that feels familiar, welcoming, and safe. A warning spoken softly lasts longer than one shouted in fear. Modern society teaches you to look for aggression, but manipulation thrives in calm spaces. It hides in tone, timing, and omission. What is not said often carries more weight than what is spoken. When information is selectively revealed, your conclusions become predictable, and predictability is power. This is why manipulators rarely argue. They allow you to argue with yourself. They present fragments, ask leading questions, and let your own mind complete the picture. When you arrive at the conclusion alone, you defend it, you protect it, you believe it was your idea. Once you understand this, something shifts. You stop asking, "Is this person lying to me?" and start asking, "What am I being guided to believe?" That single question changes everything. Because manipulation does not begin with deception, it begins with direction. Manipulators do not search for weakness the way most people imagine. They are not drawn to chaos or instability. They are drawn to openness, to empathy, to people who listen carefully, give generously, and assume good intentions. These traits are not flaws, they are signals, and signals attract attention. Good people are predictable in the best way. They value harmony, fairness, and understanding. They hesitate to assume malice. They explain away red flags. In African communal wisdom, this was seen as a strength that required protection. A person with a clean heart was respected, but also warned to guard their spirit carefully. Manipulators understand this psychology deeply. They know that kind people will tolerate discomfort longer, give second chances, and blame themselves before blaming others. This patience creates space, and in that space, influence grows. Not through cruelty, but through slow, emotional alignment. This is why manipulation often begins with warmth, with shared values, with phrases that sound familiar and safe. The manipulator mirrors your language, your morals, even your pain. Not to connect, but to calibrate. Once alignment is achieved, resistance lowers naturally. In many African proverbs, there is a quiet warning. The sweetest voice is not always the safest guide. Influence that feels gentle can still lead you far from yourself. Not because you were foolish, but because your goodness made you visible. Understanding this reframes past experiences. It removes shame. You were not targeted because you lacked intelligence or strength. You were targeted because you possessed qualities that manipulators rely on. Awareness does not harden you, it simply teaches you where to place your trust. The most effective manipulation tools are quiet. They don't shock the nervous system or trigger alarm. They slide past awareness, working slowly, almost politely. This is why many people only recognize manipulation after it has already shaped their decisions. In African wisdom, these were called soft traps, because they do not close suddenly. They wait. The first tool is the withholding of clarity. Information is given in pieces, never fully. Not enough to lie, but enough to guide. When clarity is delayed, the mind fills in gaps on its own. And once you complete the picture yourself, you become attached to it. Silence in this case becomes more powerful than words. The second tool is strategic kindness. This is not generosity, it is investment. Kindness is offered at moments when you are most open, most grateful, or most uncertain. Over time, it creates an invisible sense of obligation. In many African teachings, help was sacred precisely because it could bind as easily as it could heal. The third tool is manufactured guilt. No accusation is spoken directly. Instead, disappointment is implied. Tone changes, distance appears. You begin to feel responsible for restoring harmony, even when you've done nothing wrong. This works because socially aware people fear being the source of imbalance. The fourth tool is time pressure. Urgency reduces reflection. When you are rushed, you rely on habit and emotion instead of discernment. Ancient observers understood this well. A mind in haste cannot see clearly. The faster the decision is demanded, the less likely it serves you. The fifth tool is false authority. Confidence replaces competence. Certainty replaces truth. When someone speaks without hesitation, many assume knowledge. This is why elders valued silence before speech. Authority that cannot tolerate questioning is not authority. It is control. Once you see these tools, they lose their power. Not because manipulators disappear, but because awareness breaks the spell. What was once invisible becomes obvious. And nothing unsettles manipulation more than being quietly recognized. Manipulation does not begin with individuals. At its most advanced level, it operates through narratives. When a story is repeated long enough, it stops sounding like information and starts feeling like reality. This is how influence scales across generations, quietly, consistently, without the need for constant enforcement. Africa did not lose its power only through physical domination. Something deeper occurred. Memory was interrupted. Identity was reframed. Systems were introduced that taught people what to forget before teaching them what to know. This was not accidental. A people unsure of their past are easier to direct in the present. In many African societies, history was carried through voice, symbol, rhythm, and ritual. Knowledge lived in people, not books. When these systems were dismissed as inferior, something essential was removed: the ability to interpret human behavior through indigenous wisdom. What replaced it were external frameworks that benefited from emotional disconnection. Conditioning works best when it feels normal, when shame becomes subtle, when confidence in ancestral knowledge is quietly replaced with dependency on external validation. Over time, people stop trusting their own perception. They wait to be told what is true. This is psychological influence at its most refined. Once identity is softened, manipulation no longer needs force. People begin to police themselves. They adjust their behavior to fit the approved narrative. They doubt their instincts. In African proverb, it is said that a person who abandons their inner compass will walk confidently in the wrong direction. Reframing history is not about resentment, it is about clarity. When you understand how narratives shape behavior, you reclaim choice. And once the mind remembers itself, influence loses its grip. Because manipulation depends on forgetting who you are. Manipulation rarely arrives with hostility. If it did, most people would reject it immediately. Instead, it wears the language of concern, guidance, and protection. It sounds like advice. It feels like support. And that is precisely why it works. Influence is most effective when it does not feel like influence at all. Care becomes a powerful disguise when it subtly replaces your judgment with someone else's. Suggestions are framed as protection. Warnings are framed as wisdom. Over time, you begin to defer, not because you are incapable, but because you are encouraged to doubt your own perspective. In African teachings, this was seen as a quiet danger. When guidance removes self-trust, it no longer serves you. This form of manipulation often includes phrases that feel familiar and safe. "I'm only saying this for your good. I've been through this before. Trust me, I know better." None of these statements are inherently harmful, but when they consistently lead you away from your own reasoning, something deeper is happening. Love, leadership, and care are powerful because they lower defenses. When you feel protected, you stop scanning for risk. This is why manipulation often grows in environments of trust, not because trust is foolish, but because it opens the door to influence that is rarely questioned. African wisdom warned that the hand that guides can also redirect. Protection must strengthen, not replace, your ability to see. True care increases clarity. Manipulation reduces it, slowly, quietly, almost kindly. Once you recognize this pattern, you stop rejecting care. Instead, you evaluate its effect. Does it expand your understanding or narrow it? That question alone restores balance, because real support leaves you stronger, not smaller. Manipulation does not end with confrontation. It ends with awareness. The moment you clearly see the pattern, something quiet but irreversible happens. The emotional pull weakens, the urgency dissolves, and the pressure that once felt heavy begins to feel obvious. This is the moment manipulators cannot control. What they fear is not exposure, it is clarity. When a person understands what is happening, the tools stop working. Guilt no longer hooks, urgency no longer rushes, kindness no longer binds. Influence requires unconscious participation, and awareness withdraws consent without a single word spoken. In many African traditions, silence was used as a mirror. When someone's intentions were unclear, elders observed instead of reacting. Reaction feeds manipulation. Observation starves it. The calmer you become, the more unsettled the manipulator feels. Not because you are resisting, but because you are no longer predictable. At this stage, manipulators often escalate subtly. They may increase pressure, withdraw warmth, or introduce confusion. This is not strength, it is desperation. Influence that once flowed effortlessly now meets stillness. And stillness is difficult to control. The power shift happens internally. You stop explaining yourself, you stop rushing to respond, you stop filling silence. Your presence becomes grounded. And when that happens, the dynamic changes without confrontation or conflict. Manipulation depends on movement, on emotional reaction, on mental noise. When you become clear, slow, and aware, the game ends naturally. Not with drama, but with quiet withdrawal. Awareness does not require bitterness. Many people fear that seeing manipulation will make them cold, suspicious, or emotionally distant. But ancient wisdom teaches the opposite. True clarity softens you because it removes fear. When you understand how influence works, you no longer need to defend yourself constantly. Protection of the mind begins with boundaries, not walls. A boundary is quiet, firm, and consistent. It does not argue or justify itself. In many African traditions, strength was defined by balance, the ability to remain open without being absorbed. You could listen deeply without surrendering direction. One of the most powerful protections is pacing. You slow down decisions. You sit with emotions before acting on them. Manipulation thrives on speed, but awareness thrives on rhythm. When you control the tempo, you control your choices. Another protection is emotional ownership. You allow yourself to feel empathy without assuming responsibility for other people's discomfort. Guilt loses its grip when you recognize that not every feeling you experience belongs to you. This distinction was carefully taught in ancestral settings, long before modern psychology named it. You also learn to trust subtle discomfort, not fear, but quiet unease. African elders taught that the body notices shifts before the mind explains them. When something feels misaligned, you pause. You observe. You do not override yourself to preserve harmony. Protecting your mind is not about isolation. It is about self-respect. You remain kind, attentive, and humane, but no longer available for control. And in that balance, influence finds no place to settle. This knowledge was never hidden because it was dangerous. It was hidden because it was disruptive. A person who understands influence becomes difficult to rush, difficult to guilt, difficult to steer without consent. Such a person moves through the world with calm awareness instead of constant reaction. And systems built on control do not benefit from calm, aware minds. Africa understood this long ago. Not through textbooks or theories, but through observation of human nature over generations. Influence was studied, named, and respected, not to dominate, but to protect harmony. When that wisdom was interrupted, something subtle was lost, but it was never destroyed. It was simply waiting to be remembered. Now that you can see the patterns, you won't experience the world the same way again. Conversations slow down. Silence speaks louder. You notice when kindness empowers you and when it quietly redirects you. This is not suspicion, it is discernment. And discernment brings peace. The goal was never to expose manipulators. It was to return clarity to those who have been navigating blindly. When the mind becomes steady, manipulation loses its audience, not through resistance, but through understanding. If this perspective shifted the way you see people, power, and yourself, stay close. This channel exists to restore what was forgotten. Calm awareness, ancestral insight, and clarity in a noisy world. Once you learn to see clearly, no one needs to warn you again.